collimation. I've been asked by a few people to make a short video on how I collimate. So normally I would actually collimate my binoculars using the prisms themselves after I have cleaned them. I jiggle them about. You will find 90% of the time you can jiggle them about, bit of actual patience, get them exactly the way they came from, and collimation will be achieved. But failing that, this is what I normally do. This will work for all binoculars, whether it's 6 bys, 7 bys, 10 bys, Poro 1, Poro 2. But for this, I'm just going to be using an old body of a pair of lights that I have. Now, first thing is the beauty ring itself. Remove this, it's a right hand thread. It shouldn't be too difficult to come off. If it is a little difficult, again, use the strap, remove that. Underneath there, you will find a retaining ring. This has 2 slots in it, adjacent to each other. There is a reason for this. Now, first off though, what we do is that you do have a lot of gunge, as you can see on this one, well as you'll see on your own ones, especially naval binoculars and KF marked ones. You will find a lot of wax, debris and crap. This is to seal the binocular itself, and it seals the ring down and the cell. So remove this. This can be done 2 or 3 ways. First off, I start to scrape it away just using a screwdriver. You could put them into an oven if you can't remove it, but I would say first off try to remove the ring. If you are finding it difficult, either put it into an oven for a couple of minutes, about 70 degrees, and that will loosen off all the wax and the gums. But the only thing is, with these, the Poro 2s, you run the risk of delamination, because as you know, the prisms in here are prism clusters and they are cemented together, and then if they begin to delaminate because you've had them in for too long or it's too hot, then you're into all sorts of other problems. But there is another way of doing it. I tend to use one of these. These are great little things. Blow lamp or blow torch. Either one of these or one of the bigger versions. What I tend to do is go all the way round here, all the way round, and what will happen is that will begin to go. All of the rubbish and the wax will begin to melt. Take this off. It takes a little bit of time, but it is worth it, and it does work. Just be careful, obviously, of leather work, because or else that will melt it. Now, obviously, you're not going to heat this ring up until it begins to glow. You just want to melt the wax. Once that is done, there are 2 ways to remove this ring. Again, it's a right hand thread. You can either use a ring spanner like this, or you can use a straight piece of steel. These are fine, but the problem is that you are extremely close to that lens. You slip, you're going to scratch that lens, and that's not what we want. So a lot of the time I tend to use a flat piece of steel or an old knife. Don't use the wife's silverware, whatever you do. What you need to do is that you need to put into both slots and turn. Remember, it is a right hand thread. That's it. And as you can see, I hold it and I turn the body. It is beginning to go now. So once you've got that starting to move, you may find you'll need a strap, but this one's not too bad. Again, do not do this over a concrete floor, because if that cell comes out, obviously it's going to break. So that's what it looks like. You have a cell or a retaining ring there that covers the cell, and that keeps the cell in place. Now once you've done that, you will notice that you have the cell itself. It has 1 notch in it. Now, before we even go any further than this, what we do is with a pencil or with a screwdriver, where that notch is, I put a mark. It doesn't matter if you scratch the metal because nobody's going to see it, and it's all under wax and everything else when you return these to the way they were. Mark there exactly where you are. This is the original point. Now, what you do is you can either go clockwise or anti-clockwise. It really doesn't matter. What I tend to do is I put a screwdriver into that slot and I move it. Can you see the ring now moving? The whole thing itself, the cell itself is beginning to move. The whole lens is beginning to move. I don't move it by much, a couple of mils. That's all you need. Then hold it up to your eye, and what you're looking for is horizontal lines and vertical lines. I always try to pick a point about 100 yards away, brickwork or a fence where you get horizontal lines mixing with vertical lines. And what you're looking for is that. Not that, but that. A continuous straight line between the two lenses as you're looking through. So hold them up to your eyes, but not right up to them. Hold your eyes about 1/4 of an inch away from the eye cup itself. Then you can actually begin to focus on those. It will look like that obviously at first. Then what you're after is that. So you turn it, hold it up. If that's a little bit more, then turn it again. A little bit more, turn it again. A little bit more, turn it again. It takes time. Up and down, up and down, but it is worth it and it does work. As I say, this is rudimentary, but it does work. Once you've actually achieved, you may need to move this halfway round or even more. Sometimes 5 mil does it, sometimes 10 mil does it. I'm not sure of the scientific why it works, how it works, or focal lengths or anything else, but I know it does work. So let's assume then that you've turned that cell once again round. Just make sure each time that you do it that you press that back in and it's fine there. Now let's assume that you've held it up to your eyes, you're happy with collimation. Now we return the retaining ring. My suggestion to you is that first off you clean all this gunge off. I find isopropanol or acetone is perfect for it. Put it back in, make sure it's nicely lined up. You should hear a bit of a click and it should start to turn back in. There it goes. Now, whilst you're doing this, the biggest problem that you will face is that your cell will begin to move, and that's the last thing you want. As you are beginning to turn that retaining ring back in, your cell will probably want to move. You must make sure it doesn't, because if it does, the problem comes is that obviously it's coming back out of collimation. So just watch for that. If it begins to come out, again, turn it back a little bit and then tighten that down. I tend to put my thumb over it. It is awkward. I tend to put my thumb on that and fiddle around and turn and turn and turn until it's nice and tight. And that is how you collimate. Replace your beauty ring, and that, gentlemen, should be you in collimation. As I say, it works for every single binocular, whether it's a 10 by, a 7 by, or an 8 by. So that's the collimation one done. Thank you.